ABC New York.
And let's be heard. Good afternoon, everyone. The telephone lines are open. The number to call in New York is 563 WABC. If you're calling from New Jersey, 201-489 WABC. In a program dedicated to the free and open exchange of ideas and of opinions, in the belief that as American citizens, you have a right to hear and to be heard. And what is on your mind this afternoon? I want to quote a report from Paris, France, from a correspondent who, interestingly enough, writes for the New York Times. I want to quote, Europe, now listen to this carefully, ladies and gentlemen, on this day before election, Europe, disoriented by lingering recession and the end of its division into rival blocs, is adrift in an ideological void that is threatening the future of traditional parties in several countries and fueling the political emergence of extremist groups. Notice those first 5 or 6 words. Europe, disoriented by lingering recession. Europe, I'm repeating, disoriented by lingering recession and the end of its division in rival blocs. I want to go to another report earlier in the week. Japan, which has fallen on hard economic times, end of quote. Do you understand what these words mean? I wonder. They give the lie to Mr. Sleaze Clinton and the Wooden Indian, also known as Ozone Man. They give the lie to these individuals who are trying to have you believe that somehow or other all the world is peachy keen, everything's going along just Jim Dandy, and lo and behold, because of some policies of this administration, the wheels have come off of the economy in America. And yet, even Ross Perot acknowledges that the American economy is the best in the world. I almost thought, speaking of the year man, I almost thought he might say, you know what, you better vote for George Bush. I almost thought he was going to do that when he attacked Governor Sleaze. But he didn't. But that's all right. This is undoubtedly, my experience, the ugliest presidential campaign since 1964. The vilification, the lies, the calumny, the scurrilous attacks, the slander that was heaped on Barry Goldwater is being equaled by the vicious campaign being conducted by Clinton and company. I like to believe that in the end, right triumphs. I like to believe that in the end, no matter how much the bad guy's been getting away with things, that in the end the good guy gets up off the floor and throws the punch that wins. Maybe that happens only in movies, or the way movies used to be. I'm trying to prepare myself for the outcome, no matter what the outcome may be. I'm going to repeat what I have said throughout this campaign, and that is my hope for a George Bush victory, whom I unabashedly endorse. My hope is that enough people will go into the voting booths tomorrow, and they will pause, and before they pull the lever, they will ask themselves to think twice. And if they do think about it, They will not be prepared. They will not be prepared to entrust the future of this republic to Slick Willie Clinton. Slick Willie Clinton, who has been speaking out of both sides of his mouth. Slick Willie Clinton, who in today's Evans and Novak column is exposed once again for trying to have it both ways. Saying one thing about U.S. Air and one time, and then another thing. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I don't want to get too deep into the particulars, but he waffles on an airline deal vital to thousands of jobs in crucial Pennsylvania. He had previously said that he would support a transaction which would preserve jobs at the Pittsburgh airport, preserve jobs for hundreds of U.S. Air employees, many of them wearing Clinton campaign buttons. And then he turned right around and double-crossed them. As a matter of fact, according to this report, there were hundreds of those U.S. Air employees wearing Clinton campaign buttons, taking those campaign buttons off, furious with Governor Sleaze. And they conclude in this article from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Roland and Evans do, quote, if George Bush indeed pulls a political miracle Tuesday with the greatest comeback of all time, the only reason will be that the country finally could not trust Bill Clinton. He showed why in Pittsburgh on Friday. Meanwhile, Jean Kirkpatrick, who is one of the most respected women in the United States, says the Allies prefer George Bush, but will have to accept whatever the American people say. And for what it's worth, Department, in all likelihood, it will be the black vote that determines Bill Clinton the winner. That's according to not just Carol Roan, but a few other people as well. According to this report, the president leads among white voters only, but then you add on the black vote, and that's where Bill Clinton gets his lead. At any rate, we are going to, by popular demand, this is one of those times we can use the phrase, by popular demand, we are going to play the interview we did with Gennifer Flowers. That interview was conducted on Friday. And speaking of that interview, in the big batch of mail that came in today, this was written 6:30 p.m. Friday, October 23rd. October 23rd? The guy's got the date wrong. Anyway, dear Bob, I heard your interview with Gennifer Flowers, and you don't fool me. You must have had something to do with her, or you intend to. The only way she talked to you wasn't someone who talked to you the first time. You have been in her company, and you talked her into speaking to you on the radio. I must admit, I'm fit to be tied because I'm jealous. You sounded too happy after she went off. I called my daughter and told her I was going to write to you and tell you off. She laughed and said she thought the same way I did. She said you two were close. I know when you continued your program, you were so happy because you talked to her. I hope your girlfriend gives you hell. That's underlined. Flowers is your type. I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. It's written 3 times. P.S. I'll never write to you again, but I'll always listen to you because you are the best in every way. Dorothy Wilmore from Croton. P.S. I hate you. Ladies and gentlemen, as I've said many times, they're sick out there and getting sicker.
Yes, I was Bill Clinton's lover for 12 years. And for the past 2 years, I have lied to the press about our relationship to protect him. The truth is, I loved him. Now he tells me to deny it. Well, I'm sick of all of the deceit, and I'm sick of all of the lies.
I want to totally disagree with you. I think that President Bush, has run the dirtiest, sleaziest campaign I've ever heard a presidential politician.
What is the dirtiest? What makes you say that?
He's just throwing out lie after lie after lie, and stick, and after
lie after lie. What lies has he told?
What lies has he told?
Yeah.
About Governor Clinton's record in Arkansas. About
what lies specifically? You're not. Here you're making some specific charges, but you're not backing them up. What are they? What are the specifics here?
The specifics are that Governor Clinton has done an excellent job in Arkansas. He has been voted governor of, the best governor in the country by his peers.
You mean to say that when George Bush cited all the statistics where Arkansas is either last or second to last in all those categories, you mean to say that those categories aren't correct?
Bob, if you're...
I'm asking you a question.
Yes, they are correct.
But
that's not the point. The point is, has the...
Why is that not the point?
The point is, has the state improved? And that's incontrovertibly, yes.
Well, that's like saying if you're at zero, absolute zero, the only way you have to go is up. You talk about dirty campaign. Why is it that you only stress the one side? Why do you just accuse the president and your man is squeaky clean?
I did not say that. I did not say my man is squeaky clean.
Let me tell you what a liar your man is. In a gubernatorial debate on the 15th of October in 1990, he said, I told you when I announced for governor, I'm going to serve 4 years. I made that decision when I decided to run. I'm being considered a candidate for governor. That's the job I want. That's the job I'll do for the next 4 years. He also pledged to balance the budget in a statement to Larry King. I would present a 5-year plan to balance the budget, and yet, a few days later, he said, my plan will cut the deficit in half within 4 years. How do you balance the budget and cut the deficit in half within 4 years at the same time? I could go down a whole list, but I don't think there's any need for that. I think that you're obviously going to vote for Clinton, and I know I can't change your mind on that, but I don't like you calling and saying the president is conducting the dirtiest campaign. This has been a pretty tough campaign all the way around.
Well, I think that the president has been a lot more personal in his attacks than Clinton has.
And I think for good reason. You're right, but I think for good reason, because when you're an incumbent and you're being challenged by someone who has all these question marks regarding his character, I think that strategy calls for you to point this out to the public. And you have to alert the public and put that doubt in their mind if they don't already have it. It makes good campaign sense. Thank you for the call. It's Lou checking in right now. Hello, Lou.
Bob, I'm a little disheartened. I know the election results won't be until over 24 hours, but I think that, unfortunately, Governor Sleaze will win. But the only bright spot I can see is that if he does, mercifully, it'll only be for a 1 4-year term. I think we have to look, through a long picture, that even though he might win, and I'm not happy about it at all, I'm very disappointed in the people seeming to lean toward him. We have to realize, hopefully, it'll be just a brief 4-year term, and I think that it's terrible the way the campaign has been run on both sides, but that's probably the nature of the way politics is today.
Well, you have Il Supremo, that sanctimonious lout, that Spachim. What arrogance. He has the nerve to talk about the senatorial campaign, calling it tragic, saying how dirty it is, and yet, let me tell you this, nobody campaigns dirtier than Il Supremo. But getting back to your tone, you make it sound like it's all over. Well, it's not all over. It'll be all over tomorrow night.
I plan on voting for
But it's not all over. So You know, it just might be that that people will think twice before they cast their vote. And if they do, if they pause, if they really think about it, then I think the president will be reelected. If they don't think about it, then, of course, it is all over because, damn these polls, they...
But, Bob, can I ask you one question?
Yeah.
Say this bum does win, and I do plan on voting for Bush. The country will still survive. We've had worse crises in our history.
Well, I'm not saying the country won't survive, but why should we make things worse? Thank you for the call.
I agree. Bye-bye.
It's 28 minutes past 3 o'clock, and Dorothy of Montclair. Hello.
Bob, tomorrow is the day, right, Bob? And I have some information that I think bears heavily on the election. Okay, Bob? Do you recall when the Democratic National Convention first opened, and on every seat you saw flyers from the Spy magazine condemning George Bush and maligning him? You recall that, Bob?
Of course.
They were the ones who started this dirty, alleged campaign. But anyway, last week, Bob, President Bush was on Channel 2 in a call-in show. And someone called in and asked him about the Republican platform on abortion. And President Bush made it clear that he didn't care about that platform on abortion. He felt that incest and rape was sufficient for an abortion. That's what he said, and I think that clarifies that. Right, Bob?
Well, he said it, and he can speak for himself.
Right, and that's what he said he was doing. He said, this is my viewpoint. But now, Bob, I'd like to talk about the voices that are raised pro-Clinton. You know, Magic Johnson treated the president shabbily after the president extended such courtesy and such sympathy towards him. He left the president. He voiced his opinion pro-Clinton. I just heard that he's off again. He's on again. But he makes it clear that those people who support Clinton have something wrong with their characters. And I want to mention Terry Anderson. Bob, you've heard that Terry Anderson, that hostage, came out pro-Clinton a couple of days ago.
Yes, I did.
Right?
Yes.
Now, what most people know about Terry Anderson is that he was the longest-held hostage, that he was the head of, I don't know, AP or UP or something.
Associated Press. He was bureau chief for Associated Press.
Right.
Yeah.
So he represents the media in a way, that he was held for about 7 years, and his sister Peggy Say put up a big fight for her release.
That's right.
But what most people don't know about Terry Anderson, which I do, and I have the clippings and filings and whatever, Terry Anderson, 2 days, Bob, before he was kidnapped by the Arab terrorists, wrote articles praising the Hezbollah, the Party of God. All through his kidnapping, he was pro-Syrian. His sister Peggy Say went to visit Assad in Syria.
Yes.
They always were pro-Syrian, and Terry Anderson was not released because of Syria. He was released because the Israelis released a great many Arab prisoners. So here you have Terry Anderson, an Arab sympathizer. We know that he was living with an Arab woman and he has an Arab baby. This came out later.
Right.
We have Terry Anderson, pro-Syria, and we have Hillary Clinton, pro-Palestinian, pro-Arafat, who gave a lot of money to these causes in the Democratic Party. Now, I think that every Jew, every American who's interested in fairness and who's interested in saving this country should be aware of that, Bob.
They should be, but they aren't, and the Jewish vote will go staggeringly, overwhelmingly to Clinton, unfortunately. But thank you, Dorothy, for being on the ball. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Promised you we would be doing it, and we've just been able to complete the call to Jennifer Flowers, the woman who claims to have had a 12-year affair with Bill Clinton. She went public with her story earlier this year. This radio program, to my knowledge, has been the only radio program who has played the tapes of her conversations. And to my knowledge, this is the only program that doesn't talk about her alleged affair with Bill Clinton. She is now profiled in the December issue of Penthouse magazine. Jennifer, why did you go public?
Well, that's a long story, Bob. It happened, several months ago. There had been a lawsuit filed in Arkansas by a former state employee alleging that he was not fired for the reasons that Bill gave, but that he knew of a slush fund that Bill had set up to spend on women. And then a press release occurred as a result of that lawsuit, and in that press release, 5 women were named as to allegedly having a relationship with Bill Clinton. My name was on that list. At the time it happened, they did not make a big deal of it around the state. It was sort of pushed to the side, a little fourth of a column done in the local paper. Bill then decides to run for the President of the United States. I, in the meantime, have taken a state job that he got me, and then all of the national media attention came to him, to Little Rock. They found the lawsuit and the press release, and they began to pursue it. Thus, then, eventually the Star comes to town. They get pictures of photographs of all the women, and they decide that, well, they put out an issue on the lawsuit, and they did show pictures and name all the women in it. And that's just sort of a brief synopsis. There were a lot more things going on in my life. I was working for the state, a job which he had gotten me. There had been a grievance filed as a result of my getting that position by a lady who had been there for a number of years, felt she was more qualified. There had been a grievance hearing. She had won the grievance. It had been overturned by the head of the agency of whom he had appointed, which I knew would come up again after this first Star article appeared. I had been asked to not come back to singing jobs because I was being pursued by the media. And, I mean, someone had gotten in my apartment and gone through all of my things. I didn't know who that was. I didn't know who to trust anymore. I had received threatening phone calls, and so had my mother. So that's basically what happened, and the reason that I decided that I needed to tell the story, stop lying, tell the story, and hopefully, tell the story like it really was. I didn't want it battered around by the press back and forth. I knew it would be impossible for me to continue on in that state job or even live in Little Rock. So I made the decision to tell the story to the Star. And I brought forward at that time my tapes to legitimize my story. They asked me if I had any proof of what I was saying. And I said, well, that I had made some tapes. And that's how the tapes got involved in it.
I know Dick Kaplan. I've known him for many years. I think he is an honorable man.
I agree with you. And I want to make this point about the Star and Dick Kaplan and the Star reporter. They have been the only media organization that has gone to extreme lengths to tell this story accurately and tell it like it is. I'm forever grateful to them for that, and I resent when I hear people put down the Star or put down the tabloids. I can tell you they have done a heck of a lot better job of it than the mainstream press out here or even the national network programs.
Well, Dick assured me he never would have taken the story, never would have gone public like this if he didn't believe you, if he didn't know that you had substantial proof. And I can't stress enough to the public the high regard I have for Dick Kaplan, but what frustrates me, and I can imagine how it must frustrate you, is other people in the media keep saying Gennifer Flowers' alleged relationship. Heck, we played the tapes. That was no alleged relationship.
Well, and those tapes were actually taped after I had ended the physical relationship with Bill. So, I obviously was not trying to lead him into a sexual conversation whatsoever. I was just merely talking on the phone with the man. I could have tried to do that if that had been my motivation, but I didn't. And let me say this, please, that those tapes have been verified by Truth Verification Laboratories in New York as never having been tampered with or edited in any way. And I have heard that over and over again from the Democratic Party and various other sources. Those tapes have not been tampered with or edited, and I have that in writing from the laboratory.
It's curious. Prior to Bill Clinton actually getting the nomination during the early days of the Democrat primary, I heard a lot of rumblings from people who said, yeah, well, we don't take Clinton too seriously because the guy's a womanizer. He's got a lot of skeletons in his closet. The character issue would kill him. Then he gets the nomination. Now everybody's saying, it's alleged. It's alleged. It doesn't matter. Jennifer Flowers is a liar and so forth.
Bob, I'm the only one. They're calling me a pathological liar, and I'm the only one that's brought forth any proof of the story.
Well,
That's what I find extremely amusing.
Well, Betsy Wright certainly doesn't pull her punches where you're concerned.
Well, Betsy Wright, like many others, are still participating in a cover-up. Betsy knew of it was my opinion that Betsy knew of my relationship with Bill.
What about Hillary?
If you were Betsy Wright, I call her Betsy Wrong at this point. I mean, what would you do?
Do you think Hillary knew about the relationship?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. She was not kind to me when I would be at various functions where she was, and unless she had her suspicions about Bill and I, there would have been no reason for her to treat me that way.
I have a theory that if he doesn't win the election within 3 to 6 months after being defeated, she'll divorce him.
I think exactly the same thing. Well, it will be interesting to see if what we predict comes true.
Now, the election is Tuesday. You're out there in California. You're registered back in Arkansas?
I sure am, and I voted, Bob, before I left because I was concerned that I might not be back on Election Day.
You want to tell us who you voted for?
I voted for Ross Perot.
Okay. I knew that in advance, but I asked you anyway because I wondered what you would say on the telephone. You had that conversation about Mario Cuomo.
Yeah.
And you're right. He does sound like a tough guy, or as Bill Clinton said, a tough SOB. He is a tough guy. But what's interesting is first there was a denial. I don't know if you're aware of this. There was a denial.
I heard that. He was saying, that's not me on the tapes, but I'm sorry I said that about Mario Cuomo.
Right. Then he apologized. That's right.
Well, and I did apologize as well because I don't know Mario Cuomo, and after all this came to light, I'd heard some very good things about the man, and I felt badly for having said it and then had it, heard across the country.
All right, here's what we've been playing. I want you to know that because the rest of the media has shied away from this, I've tried to take up the slack, and we played this every day for months now.
Are you talking about the tape?
Yeah.
Can I tell you something interesting about that?
Sure.
I had decided that I needed to run the tapes on a 900 number so that the American public could hear them for themselves and come to their own conclusions. Here they are, listen to them. If you still think I'm a bad girl, fine. And if you have other opinions, fine. AT&T and MCI turned me down for political reasons. And they freely admitted that they were afraid of Democratic legislation against them for having done this.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and that really disappointed me in that, this is supposed to be a free country.
Well, supposedly.
And it is, for the most part, but I mean, the Democrats have been very successful at shutting those efforts down.
All right, here's what the people couldn't hear because they wouldn't let you go through with that. But we played this excerpt. I'd like to get your reaction to this.
Okay. Well, I don't particularly care for Cuomo's demeanor.
Boy, he is so aggressive.
Well, he seems like he could get real mean.
Mean son of a bitch.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't have some mafioso major connections.
Well, he acts like one.
Yeah.
All right, that's...
Now, I ask you, would you share those opinions with someone that you barely knew? I mean, really, that's what amazes me. I mean, if I was a casual acquaintance of Bill's, he would not have shared something like that. That kind of an opinion with me in the longest day of his life.
And then the other conversation that we played, he was telling you that he kept trying to get you and kept trying to get you.
When he says that I always called him.
Yeah, but...
And I did call him several times. I mean,
okay.
There came a point in this deal where, we were calling each other back and forth a lot because so much was going on.
Yeah.
And I was trying to keep him posted on what could be potential problems.
All right, let's listen to this, see what your comment is about this conversation.
Hello?
Jennifer?
Yes.
Bill Clinton.
Hi, Bill.
Hey, I tried to call you. I can't believe I got you.
Well, when did you try to call me?
Last night, late.
Well, I was here.
Did you take your phone off the hook?
Well, I did. I've been getting some hang-up calls.
Oh.
And at one point, I took my phone. I didn't take it off the hook. I just
Turned it off?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was. I started calling as soon as I got home last night, and I called for a couple hours.
Well, sorry I missed you.
Well, anyway, I'm glad I was afraid I'd screwed up the number or something. I kept calling.
Well, you got a cold?
Yeah. It's just every year about this time, my sinuses go bananas.
Yeah, me
Never
too.
been in a stupid airplane too much, but I'm okay.
Well, good.
All right, now, that conversation is not a conversation a man would have with a woman that he didn't know very, very well.
You don't think you would discuss his sinuses with someone he didn't know well?
And the way he said he'd been trying to get a hold of you, and,
Right.
And you called him Bill. He was the governor of the state.
Well, and I've had people say, well, why did he say, if you know him so well, why did he say Bill Clinton instead of this is Bill? You know, I did not find that odd at all. I mean, when I would call him, sometimes I would say, you know, this is Jennifer Flowers. I mean, we tried to let each other know right away who was on the phone.
Well, not only that...
And Bill is a common name. You know, we were just trying to clarify very quickly who was on the telephone so that we could proceed with our conversation. I didn't find that odd at all when he said this is Bill Clinton.
Well, politicians do give their full name. I notice that's a trait they have. Also, a woman called one day saying that she didn't believe you really had an intimate relationship with him because you didn't know about his allergy.
Well, I found that a little odd when he said every time at this time of the year I have this allergy problem. And I thought to myself, I don't remember that. But let me make something also clear to you, that there were periods of time when maybe Bill and I didn't see each other, but maybe a couple of times in that year. And I assure you that we didn't spend our time talking about his sinuses. So, I mean, it just wasn't something that had been a priority in our lives. You know, I didn't see Bill every day of every week.
What do you say to those, Jennifer, what do you say to those people who say you've been doing all of this just for the money?
Well, I would say that that's not true. And I have brought forth, you know, I've told my story. I've brought forth proof of my story. I've been through a lot. You know, you couldn't pay me enough for all the stress and the tension that I've suffered and my family has suffered as a result of this. I really have been the victim in this to a big degree. Now, I realize that I have to pay the consequences for having had a relationship with a married man. But I never set myself up as a Mother Teresa figure either. I'm not running for the presidency of the United States. I'm a nightclub singer. What I have done in terms of money is simply try to survive. I lost the ability to earn my living on the same basis that I used to. I had lost a state job. I had been asked not to come back to my singing jobs. I knew I was going to have to leave the state. I was going to have to start anew someplace. And very frankly, after the Star articles that I did, I had no idea that it would get this kind of attention. And let me make another point to you. I have been invited for months now by most of the major news organizations, talk shows, radio shows to come on and talk about this. I have not. You haven't heard from me until I decided to do the Penthouse article and pictorial because I considered that, like a lot of former Miss Americas, by the way, and other actresses and entertainers do, as a stepping stone in their career. That's why I decided to do Penthouse. I had no control over when the magazine would come out.
Well, as a matter of fact, the magazine was supposed to have been the November issue, but apparently Bob Guccione didn't want to hurt Bill Clinton too much.
Well, he's been covering his political ass. That's what he's been doing, and I did not okay that article. I was supposed to be able to go back and review it and so forth, and I was not invited back to do that. So, you know, I consider the biggest portion of that malicious, opportunistic gossip. I invited the interviewer to check out those sources, check out their credibility. I brought forth people that had known me for years. I am the only one, Bob, that's got any proof of anything.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that it's very frustrating for me. And all I can say is that I hope to God if something good can come of this to me and my family, then great. I have no problem with that.
All right, one final question, Jennifer Flowers. what's your next step? What are you going to do with the rest of your life?
Well, I hope to get it on track and get it back to normal. I'm working on an album. I want to continue on with my entertainment career like I have been for 22 years. Whatever comes up, whatever offer comes up that's good, hopefully I'll have the opportunity to do.
Oh, I was going to say just a personal note, but there's been a lot of personal notes here. I finally read the article in Penthouse.
Mm-hmm.
Did you really do all those things?
With Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I did. But now, I think that there are a number of people out there that have had some exciting relationships that could probably relate to some of those things. We didn't do anything weird.
No, you didn't.
We
you didn't do
did
anything
some
weird.
pretty standard fun things that people do together.
No, I'm not saying this disapproving. I'm just maybe you ought to teach a course.
Well, no, I'm not that big an expert, even though it sounds different in that article.
Thank you for coming to the telephone. Good luck.
Listen, thank you so much for having me.
I really didn't have her. I interviewed her, though. There are many issues that must be addressed, many problems that we must focus on, which really have very little, if anything, to do with the outcome of the presidential election. And for those of you pathetic, ignorant cavones who think that by electing Slick Willy, somehow or other, everything's going to be peachy keen. You're going to wake up breathing better, feeling better, walking better, talking better, doing better. You'll see it's not going to happen. Steve, you're on WABC. Hello.
Yes, Bob, a quick comment I'd like to make before I get into why I called. I want to thank Congress Thing Lowy for one thing. I wasn't able to go to the bathroom all day until I listened to her talk. But why I called was, it seems to me that the slanted, liberal, biased media is telling the ignorant cavones, like you said, who to vote for, and they're so stupid they cannot make up their own minds. They're being manipulated by a media that is pro-Clinton. And their people are sitting on their hands and just like a monkey. They're yes, that's right. He is going to change everything. I'll wake up on Wednesday and everything will be better. These people have got to wake up.
All right, Steve. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, you're persona non grata, you creep. That was Eli of Westchester. The guy never gives up. That scum. Vincent, you're on WABC. Hello.
Bob, first-time caller. You there?
Vincent, hello.
Yes, I'm right here. You there?
I'm here. I said hello, Vincent. I don't know what else we do. Now do we dance? What do we do?
Bob, first-time caller. I just wanted, you were speaking...
Why is it so important to tell me that you're a first-time caller?
Probably nerves.
Okay.
All right. You were speaking of Larry King before, okay?
Yes.
And I just wanted to add some insight into this man who's playing such a major role in this one-sided media push for the skirt-chasing, draft-dodging Slick Willy. He goes to L.A. every once in a while to do a show. And a friend of mine is an actress out there. And she told me, she happened to be on the set one night, that it wasn't 5 minutes until he tried to take her to bed on the set. And she's been hit upon by a lot of Hollywood bigwigs, but never so quickly by such a man. And what you said about him is true. I don't know if you have that type of insight in on him too. I just think it's strange that this is the type of man who is so important in this campaign. The second thing I want to talk about...
Well, he's important because he's one of the major candidates and the leading candidate in the polls and the one who'll probably win. I mean, that's why...
No, I mean Larry King.
Larry King, I'm sorry.
Larry King was the one that hit on the actress.
Oh, yeah, well, Larry King is a horny guy, which doesn't make him a bad person, but take a good look at him. If he put a bag over his face, maybe he might make out. But then again, women don't care what a guy looks like. All they know is he's got a lot of money, and he's a big star, and that's all they're interested in.
Well, she refused his advances. Bob, I'm at work. I don't get to listen to you.
Oh, isn't that great? We'll give her a medal.
Do you talk about the fact? I know Bush is vilified all the time about his lack of direction in the economy. But do you talk about the fact that what the oil prices would be in this economy if it were not for this man? What he did so magnificently? Home heating would be a fortune in the northeast. Gasoline prices and how it would wreak havoc with this economy?
By the way, speaking of gasoline prices, thanks to the United States Congress and that idiotic Clean Air Act they passed in 1990, gasoline prices are going absolutely crazy. For example, in the state of New Jersey, they've gone up 12, 15 cents at a time when they usually go down because of this idiotic scheme they've got in which the gasoline is supposed to be oxygenated. The oil companies are taking advantage because that's what oil companies were created for, to take advantage. And they're taking advantage of a situation and charging a whole lot of money extra that they shouldn't be charging. People are going to get worse mileage, and some scientists say it's going to make matters worse, and a lot of people are going to have trouble with their automobiles. But you know what? Nobody knows because people are stupid, they're dumb, they don't read, they don't pay attention, and they don't deserve any of my pity. The only reason I'm upset is I have to go down the tubes with the rest of the gabones.
That's how I feel.
Thank you for the call, Vincent.
Thank you.
Ah, dear me. Why did God have to create so many peasants?
Hello, Mr. Grant. This is Vince Schober. I'm calling from the Bush Republican headquarters here in Morristown, New Jersey. I'm just calling you to let you know that today at the Madison rally, it was a great success. No matter what you'll hear on the news or what you see, President Bush, Rush Limbaugh, and Tom Keene were incredible today. The turnout was astronomical. There must have been close to 15,000 Bush supporters there, and the president did a tremendous job. I'd just like to let you know that this county here, Morris County, is the most Republican county in New Jersey. The last election, 75% of the vote was for Bush. And so far, in the last few weeks, we've been seeing turnouts of almost 1,000 people a day coming into our office, getting literature and signs and saying they're voting for Bush. So I'm pretty positive, I am positive that Bush will win New Jersey tomorrow and win the election. And I'd just like to say that our regional coordinator, Dorian Alley, has done a tremendous job in coordinating the Bush Quill campaign here in the county.
I'm going to Republican headquarters in Parsippany after the broadcast tomorrow because I don't dare be alone. I might slash my wrists if I am. Then after my paying my respects there, I'm going to the Ramada Inn in Clark, where Bob Frank's headquarters will be, and I am confident that there will be a victory celebration there.
That's correct.
And then on to Middlesex County at the Pines Manor in Edison.
Well, today the president was looking extremely strong. He was very confident and very positive that tomorrow he will win the election, and it was good to see that. He really gave out a persona of confidence, and I was really proud to see that.
Well, we had 21,000 people when I was the master of ceremonies at his rally in Ridgewood on the 22nd of October, and I got the same feeling then, Vincent. I got the same. Did you know that he was in Ridgewood on the 22nd?
Yes, I was there. Yeah. And that was a great rally too. But I'm sure that tomorrow Bush, for all those people who are undecided, that Bush will win tomorrow, and that if they're planning to cast their vote, they should cast it for Bush, because we can't afford 4 years of Clinton. I mean, we all know that. I don't have to tell you, that's for sure.
Well, Vincent, I appreciate your call. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mario, Sandame, Duze Probano Svachim. Thank you, Bob.
All right, and the chorus came back. The four guys came in. Okay, you Stunads, go ahead.
Mario, Azendame, Duze Proveno Spachim.
All right, I think you did it better than those four guys.
Thank you, Bob.
Of course, those four guys are not exactly playing with a full deck. I mean, yeah, people ask me, what about those four guys? Well, these are guys on unemployment compensation, welfare, what have you, and they hang around all day waiting for me to call them in to deliver a message to Mario. Ladies and gentlemen, that slams the lid on things for today. Tomorrow, of course, is Election Day. I firmly believe that we should re-elect George Bush for the next 4 years. I hope you agree with that. But even if you don't, please exercise your duty as a citizen, and regardless of whom you vote for, get out and vote. Until tomorrow, your influence counts. Use it.
WABC New York.
It's 7 o'clock.
From ABC News, I'm Doug Limerick. It's the eve of the election following a very unusual campaign by President Bush, Governor Clinton, and businessman Ross Perot. All three believe they can win tomorrow.
Let's not go back and take us back to the tax and spend days that brought us real ruin.
Use your vote tomorrow to vote for change, for hope, for unity, for a better day for America.
I work for the biggest, most important lobby in the world, and that's the American people.
The final ABC poll in the presidential race is just out. Here's ABC's Bob Schmidt.
The ABC News poll of all 50 states completed yesterday shows Bill Clinton in the lead with 44% of the popular vote to 37% for George Bush. Ross Perot is third with 16% among the sample of over 9,000 likely voters nationwide. Clinton leads in electoral votes, but is clearly ahead in 9 states compared to 18 10 days ago. He's leading in another 14. That would give the governor a total of 295, 25 more electoral votes than he'd need to be elected. Though President Bush now has clear leads in 5 states and is ahead in 7 more, his total is only 81 electoral votes. 16 states are toss-ups. The popular vote survey has a 3-point margin of error. Bob Schmidt, ABC News, New York.
On WABC, and we go to the newsbreaker line to talk to former Massachusetts Senator and former Democratic presidential candidate Paul Tsongas, who says some reform is needed in the electoral process, most notably, Senator, changes in how the media covers the race and picks winners even before the primary season gets underway. It would seem that you would be particularly sensitive to that because of the way the media treated your candidacy earlier this year.
Well, I think there's a lot of discussion these days about reform of the system, and the fact is that I think in terms of issues like matching funds, the system works pretty well. What happened to us, very simply, was that the media did not take us seriously in 1991, and we could not raise money in that pivotal early year. So once we began to win primaries, it was really too late to put the money together to run a 48, 50-state campaign. So what I've said to the media, who I don't have complaints about in terms of how they covered, was simply don't make judgments about who's serious and who is not until the voters decide.
Well, apparently they do make judgments about who's serious depending on the money that is committed. As a matter of fact, Senator, isn't it true that that's why Ross Perot was taken so seriously by the media? Because he had stated he would spend, and I quote, $50 to $100 million on a world-class campaign, unquote?
Well, if Ross Perot had $100,000 in his bank account, it would have been a very different story. Money is the mother's milk of politics, and I think that was part of it. But I think the other part of it was that he was raising issues that I think had to be raised, and let's give him credit for that.
Yeah, Senator, you've always impressed me. When I say always, I mean since I first saw you in those debates and on the campaign trail in New Hampshire and Michigan and Illinois and the other states, Florida, as one of the more candid political figures. And I want to ask you, as you see Bill Clinton, do you think, that should have been me? Has that occurred to you?
Well, for whatever reason, and mainly, I suppose, because of what I've been through with cancer back 9 years ago, I guess I have a different perspective. I'm very grateful for what life has given me, and I'm not one who's ever been in a kind of looking back mindset. Obviously, I would rather be there, but certainly that's a political, professional judgment, but from a personal point of view, I don't think there's any doubt that my wife, my family are better off as private citizens. So I get to see my kids' soccer game and go to parents' weekend, that kind of thing. And, ultimately we're all human beings and those things count.
So no tinge of envy, jealousy, resentment, anything of that kind?
It's not the way I'm built. There is obviously a fierce wanting to have been there. But the fact is that I never lost before, and Bill Clinton was the first person to beat me. And he ran a very good campaign. A lot of things that I think you really have to look at and respect. Obviously, we differ on economic issues, and that will continue. But the fact is that even when we began and really began thinking about it 2 years ago this month, my wife and I really thought of this in terms of getting the message out. And it wasn't until the campaign really got going that we thought we could really win this thing. So in terms of how we were expected to do, in terms of the discussion we wanted to create, we feel very good about it. And people, as we travel the country, are very kind and very complimentary. So all things being equal, I'd rather have won. But if I could not have won, I wanted to go out with people's respect, and hopefully that happened.
Well, you did run out of money, and that was really why your campaign was concluded, right?
To give you some parameters, 1987, Michael Dukakis, who began the same time I did, raised $10 million in 1987. My equivalent year was 1991. We raised $1 million. So that meant that when we got past the early primaries, where I did well, and went into the huge media states, we were simply blown away because we were defined by other people's ads, had not the early money to have a field office in El Paso, in a black ward in Chicago, in places where we simply did not have the money to get to.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to former Massachusetts Senator Paul Tsongas. And Senator, somebody from, I guess, your office, somewhere along the line, sent me a book, some 80-odd pages, 86 pages or so, titled A Call to Economic Arms. Your book. Mm-hmm. And I will never forget that night that Ross Perot was having that round table or seminar, whatever you want to call it, with Peter Jennings and people in the audience. And toward the end of the program, he was asked about his economic proposals, and he held up your book. Now, how in the world must that have made you feel?
Actually, it made me feel very good because I was out of it at that point. And obviously, the fear was that the ideas would stop. But the fact is, a lot of what Perot ran on and talked about was very similar to what was in that book. So it was a way of in essence, seeing your own ideas perpetuated. And now, as you know, Senator Rudman and I have formed this, what's called the Concord Coalition, and that will continue apace, hopefully.
Yes, we talked to Senator Rudman several weeks ago, and I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Senator Rudman, and that is specifically, what do you hope to accomplish?
Well, it's kind of, maybe the analogy would be an economic common cause. What we have to do is educate the American people as to the threat of economic decline and what happens when you don't grow the economy and the role of the deficit and debt in that equation. I think Perot did an enormous amount to begin that dialogue. And the fact is that there's really a lot of interest. We've gotten something like 60,000 phone calls into our 800 number in the last 6 weeks. So obviously, after this election, people's concern about the future, what's going to happen to their children, does not go away. And so if you think of it that our job, in essence, is to change the direction of the political wind so that the powers that be in Washington can do what's necessary and appropriate.
I take a very gloomy outlook on this because of the human nature being what it is. For example, I've interviewed people from the rural segment of society, and I've asked about the agricultural subsidies, and they say, no, you can't cut those. I've talked to senior citizens, and they think their COLAs should go on unquestioned. As a matter of fact, some people are even complaining they're only going to get a 3% increase. And I say, yeah, but aren't you glad that inflation is only 3%? What I'm driving at, Senator, is everybody agrees in principle with what you're trying to do, and even a lot of things that Ross Perot said. But nobody, they're saying, well, let it start with the other guy. Don't take anything away from me.
Well, you put your finger on the great challenge. We are a democracy, and we will be judged by what we leave behind to our children. And if the net result of everybody sort of wanting their thing is that the economy begins to collapse, the fact is nobody's going to get anything. So part of our job is to make people recognize that if you can become responsible, begin to deal with some of these issues, grow the economy, in the last analysis, everybody will be better off. And more particularly, the social obligation we have to our children, to whom we leave this $4 trillion of debt, hopefully can be addressed. I think what you're looking at, if the trends continue, is generational war of the young feeling that their future has been taken away from them, and rightly so, and feeling great anger towards our generation who squandered what was a great creditor nation and made it a great debtor nation.
Senator, there was a debate, I believe it was in one of the debates, where you said you were running for president, not Santa Claus. And I want to tell you, on this program the next day, a lot of people who weren't paying much attention to you in the campaign suddenly took notice and said, hey, I like that guy. To what extent are people sincere when they say they're not looking for Santa Claus? I still suspect most people are.
Bob, I think if you had asked me that a year ago, I would have agreed with you. But all the evidence that you can look to, the fact that I did much better than anybody anticipated, the fact that we got as many votes as we did after I got out, which has never happened before in this country. If you look at the Perot phenomenon, if you look at this young group called Lead or Leave, if you look at the response to the Concord Coalition, I think what's going on out there is that people have come to understand that this nation is under great economic threat. And rather than just sort of whistling it away, want to deal with it. So wherever I go, and I give speeches all the time around the country, I get people coming up to me. And their reaction is interesting, very much like yours. I know what you're talking about, and I'm prepared to do what's necessary, but nobody else is. But when you get that from everybody, I think you finally begin to see the potential, and this is really what Bill Clinton has to do, to make people understand that if we don't begin to address these issues, ultimately the price we pay down the road is going to be horrendous, and you simply have to do what's necessary to grow the economy.
One final question, Senator. Every now and then I see something that floats your name as some possible cabinet head, Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of Commerce, I believe I saw. Would you like to be in a Clinton cabinet?
No. I made it very clear that I need to change the political debate in this country. You don't do that inside somebody's cabinet. I have to be outside, be the free spirit that I would like to be, and working with Rudman, begin to change the political climate. If I can do that, I can influence how a Bill Clinton will decide things. I cannot do so inside. So my future is with Warren Rudman in the Concord Coalition, and I would not accept, neither would I accept, to be offered any kind of a cabinet position.
Well, I'm not surprised to hear that answer coming from you, because both you and Warren Rudman apparently are of a different cut than what we've come to expect most of our political leaders to be. You both seem to be sincerely committed to effecting a change. One final point, Senator. I was reading a piece on Social Security, which, of course, is a subject that doesn't come up too often on a program like this because it's somewhat dull, I suppose. But anyway, the point was that when the Social Security Act was enacted by Congress in 1935, it was very rare for an individual American to live much beyond 65.
Right.
They did not get anything until they were 65. That's number one. There was no widow's pension. In other words, if a breadwinner died, that was the end of it, and so forth. But without taking too much time, the Social Security program apparently has become something completely different than what it was intended to be. What do you think we can do about Social Security?
I think you're going to see Social Security and the whole entitlements issue become a major issue next year and in the future, not only because of what you just described. And I think most people's reaction would be, look, if we can afford it, these are good things to do. But the reality is the number of workers per retiree has shrunk enormously. So now you're going to look at maybe 3 workers to retiree, even less than that, as you begin to move into 10, 15 years from now. The projections are that my daughter, who's 18, when she's in her 30s, will spend 20% of her income will be deducted for Social Security and Medicare. Then you add to that the percentage of that which goes to pay off the national debt, and you're going to have a revolution. These kids are not going to do that. And so what I fear is you're going to see young people looking at older people with a sense of anger, and the issue is not going to be whether people get their cost of living increase. The question is going to be what kind of candidates are going to be out there appealing to one side or the other in this great divide, and that's not going to be very pretty.
Senator Tsongas, thank you for coming to the telephone, and good luck to you and Senator Rudman.
Thank you. Take care, Paul.
Paul Tsongas, ladies and gentlemen, one of the dedicated, one of the few truly dedicated people on the political landscape in America today.
Last Thursday, we saw what I believe is the biggest travesty in the history of American jurisprudence. You know, how any jury, with all of the evidence pointing in the direction that this bum Limerick Nelson his knife was the deciding one that killed Yankel Rosenbaum, and how there was blood all over the knife. He had money in his pocket that was all bloody. Probably he robbed somebody along the way.
He had three single-dollar bills that had blood which DNA tests said was the blood of Yankel Rosenbaum. The blood on the knife, DNA test said, was the blood of Yankel Rosenbaum.
Plus, he confessed the crime to the police.
Right.
And yet and still, these jerks decided to acquit him.
Unbelievable. Really unbelievable.
It certainly is. And the other thing is that all of the anti-Semites over the next few days came out of the woodwork on the 2 major black radio stations. The callers, that is. And a few of them had the nerve to spread some scurrilous lies that at the demonstration on Sunday that some Hasidic Jews were breaking through barricades and finding black men and beating them up at random.
You know, it's amazing, those radio stations you talk about, Radio Uganda and Radio, the other one would be, wait a minute, don't tell me, Radio Zimbabwe. It's amazing how those 2 stations don't even make a pretense at any kind of accuracy, any kind of fairness. You know, I'm opinionated and I'm outspoken, but if someone makes a statement that I believe is inaccurate, even if that statement is in support of my position, I will point that out.
Yeah, and you know, the main thing that's so disheartening to me is that there are millions of decent blacks out there who totally oppose that nonsense, and for reasons of intimidation, they just don't bother to call in. You know, we have totally given the airwaves over to the rabble. And outside of myself and Roy and a few others, the decent folks just aren't speaking out because they are, just like white liberals are afraid of being labeled racist, blacks are afraid of being labeled Uncle Toms. And it's so unfortunate.
Well, David, you know, it's... in my view, this is just the beginning. I mean, things aren't going to get any better. They're going to get a heck of a lot worse before and if they get better.
Yes, and that's one of the dangers of the Clinton-Gore administration. Is that all the doors are going to be opened up to these left-wing hate mongers, and they're going to have first preference in the White House, and it's going to leave the rest of us behind the 8th ball.
What do you suppose Jesse's going to get? Is it just the senatorial seat? Somebody raised that question with me yesterday, and I said what the payoff for him is that Slick Willy is for statehood for D.C., And Jesse will be one of the two senators. So that's his payoff right there. But isn't it interesting that here this guy, who heretofore has been brazen, bold, he told Dukakis where to get off. He warned Mondale not to put him in the background. But he hasn't said a word to Slick Willy. He just quietly going around. He was given $1 million to, quote, recruit new voters and the use of the airplane. So he's been paid off. But after the campaign, maybe, just maybe, he'll come out and speak out. Even Sister Soldier, who is a non-person, really, hasn't said too much, has she? The only thing she said was she wasn't voting for Clinton, but she didn't say who she was voting for. Presumably Andre Moreau. Thank you very much, David.
Okay.
I'd like to discuss something about this atrocity, which was the verdict in the murder trial of Yankel Rosenbaum, excuse me, I'm sorry. Well, you know, the federal government, or the Attorney General's office, is now going to take over the case. Now, I have kind of a hunch that if that happens, if the federal government begins looking into this case, some embarrassing information may come out about the DA's office in Brooklyn. Like they may have, somebody up the line may have deliberately tried to botch the case. But you know what's the unfortunate thing is that an attorney general appointed by a President Clinton will never touch this case. And the reason is because the murderers come from a group of people who are important to the Democrats, and the victim comes from a group of people they couldn't care less about. And it's just, that's the way it's going to end up. These murderers they'll get theirs at some point. They'll be killed by other thugs. They'll be killed by a drug dealer, but they won't get brought to justice.
Well, the naming of a federal prosecutor for the case from the Justice Department does not have to wait until January 20th. This can be expedited. There's no need to wait. So I don't know where you got the idea that they would have a moratorium on any activity until January 20th. That is not necessarily the case. Certainly, in a situation of this kind, that would not obtain. I don't think it would, but what?
I mean, do you think that the case could be expedited that quickly before Clinton becomes president?
Well, what is so quick about it? I mean, the Justice Department gets to work on it, and if there's a delay and the new president comes in, yes, he will appoint his own person, and they could stall the proceedings. They could do whatever they want, but I'm not going to lose sleep over that possibility. Thank you for the call, Bill.
Okay.
It's Mike checking in right now. Hello, Mike.
Yes, how you doing, Bob? I'd like to talk about the statement you made earlier in reference to Governor Clinton referring to President Bush as Mr. Bush during the debates. Do you believe that he possibly learned that tactic from Ronald Reagan back when Ronald Reagan used to refer to President Jimmy Carter as my opponent all the time?
Is this your way of trying to say that it was okay that Slick Willy did it because maybe Ronald? Well, then get off that phone, for heaven's sake. I don't want slime. I don't want to be involved with slime. Hello, Tom.
Yeah, excuse me.
Oh, gee, Tom, the adenoids king.
Don't do that.
Oh, dear me.
Hey, I talked to my friend and said,
why don't you go see Dr. Catani? He's one of the greatest surgeons in the world. Robert V. Catani. Why don't you go see him?
You can't.
And you'll breathe better, and you'll look better, too.
Yeah, you can't stand my voice, and you can't stand your voice.
Well, that's true. That's true. Right? If I were listening to a tape, I'll be honest with you, Tom. If I were forced to listen to a tape of our conversation, I probably would be more annoyed with my voice than yours. That's true. You finally made a good point, Tom.
Okay, I'll tell you whose voice we can stand. That's Jennifer Flowers. Does she have a beautiful voice?
Well, I don't know. I'm not too fond of that accent. You know, I hate accents of any kind.
Oh yeah. Anyway,
at least you don't have an odd accent. You don't have an accent.
Yeah, from Patterson.
I think I'll try to dwell on your few redeeming features.
Yeah.
I was at the A&P the other day, and I saw the cover of Newsweek magazine and Time magazine. Guess who was on it, right?
Well, I'm sure Slick Willy must have been been on it.
What's that? That's people saying, what do you mean by the media? What the hell is that all about, you know? The face is all over the place. You think Stassen would have made it this year?
Harold Stassen probably would have made it, right.
Yeah. And what's this other nonsense, too? The unemployment. They get 26 weeks. You have to be willing and able to work. I want another 26 weeks. Another 26 weeks. You might as well go on welfare and be done with it, right?
Right.
How about the New York Times on Sunday? You know, they told me they had about 22 pages of help wanted ads. If you figure out something around an average about 300 help wanted ads a page, we're talking about over 6,000 jobs right there in the help wanted pages of the New York Times just Sunday alone.
That's right. And by the way,
looking at those things or what? Oh, no, I got a PhD. You know what I mean?
Yep.
No, I don't want to do dishes, and I don't want to pump gas and all the other stuff. Oh, yeah? What'd you do back in 1930? They were starving, you know? What are Clinton's qualifications? You know, what makes him so qualified? That's what I can't figure out.
The media wants him in there. You see, that's it. The media wants him in there.
I don't see any qualifications there at all. He keeps bragging about Arkansas. That's all. That's all he's qualified for. Nothing on a world scale, on a national level, right?
Well, you know how I feel about him. I think it's a disgrace. I think the guy is. Come on, I'm getting tired of hearing myself say it, Tom.
Yeah, we'll see now. We'll have an impeachment coming up. How about that for a change, like we did with Andrew Johnson? But he got him off the hook, of course.
Tom, I appreciate your call. I'm glad you went out and voted. Let's see. Are you in Marge Raukemer's district? Whose district are you in?
That rogue split, you know. So you got Bubba and Klein.
Oh, Joe Bubba. Joe Bubba. Clearly, Joe Bubba's the man for the job.
Yeah,
good.
I voted for Bubba.
Good for you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Hello, Bob.
Yes, Joe.
Hello, Bob. I see that Dan Rather of CBS, John Chancellor of NBC, and Peter Jennings of ABC are all starting their coverage of the presidential race and other national and local elections starting at about 7 p.m.
Unfortunately, that's true.
The polls in New York State will not be closing until 9 o'clock, and I'm sure that they close at 9 o'clock on the West Coast. That means a 5-hour difference. I'd like your comments on that. Do you think they're going to look to sandbag?
First of all, although they devoutly are pulling for a Slick Willy victory, as much as they want Slick Willy to win, they have their agenda calls for their own self-aggrandizement before anything else. And they would kill to get a scoop. They would kill to be first. Now, I noticed that the networks have never agreed to hold off, and I wouldn't expect them to. What they are doing now is each state, they will declare each state. Now, what does that mean? That means that if they're declaring states and one candidate hits 270 electoral votes, as soon as that one candidate hits 270 or over, they will declare him naturally the winner, because that's what the Constitution says, that if you get 270 electoral votes, you win. Now, that is taking for granted that votes won't come in later that will change that. They know from past experience that rarely does that happen. And it doesn't happen nationally at all. It happens rarely on a state basis. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
So they're going to... they better be careful that they don't make it obvious they're having orgasms, because they will. I mean, this is a great day for all the people in the media, because they're going to celebrate in hysteric fashion. And then after a couple of days or a couple of weeks, it'll set in. It'll dawn on them that, hey, wait a minute. Who do we have to pick on anymore? We don't have any targets. The media... basically, they have a vulture mentality, and they want to feed on the carcass of incumbent presidents, if those presidents are Republicans. But now they're going to have a beloved Democrat in the White House. And who will they pick on?
WABC, New York.
It's 6 o'clock.
From ABC News, I'm Doug Limerick. The polls won't be open much longer in the East. In fact, they've just closed in a couple of other states. Election day is winding down. Turnout has been heavy. Let's go live now to ABC's Vic Retner, ABC Election Headquarters in New York.
The polls are closing at this hour in Indiana, and in the presidential race, ABC News reports that usually Republican Indiana is too close to call.
Time caller. I know you don't much like accolades, but it's a real pleasure to listen to someone like yourself who doesn't have his head up the liberal media's collective printing press.
I don't know who told you I didn't like accolades. I have no problem with accolades.
Oh, well, it seems like every time somebody keeps them on you, they seem to get shot down, so I don't want that to happen. I'm a Bush supporter. I just came back from the poll. I want to tell my fellow Americans, get out there and vote for Bush. We cannot afford 4 years of Slick Willy.
I couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more.
You know, it's, I think I'm better off than I was 4 years ago. It's like you say, it's a global economy. People have to realize that.
Well, isn't it interesting that even the New York Times couldn't stop that report over the weekend, which showed that in relation to all of the European economies and even Japan's, ours was the healthiest. There was a little story in the Inside Opinion section, and quoting a French member of the French Parliament who couldn't understand why America is seemingly voting the way we're voting. Couldn't understand it. But, hey, the American people have a lot of cabons out there, a lot of stupid, narrow-minded cabons. What are you going to do?
I don't know. Seems like two of them have talk shows, too. Two females that are on ABC there. I won't mention names.
We have some political morons on this radio station.
Yeah,
absolutely
this is
political
true, but
morons.
thank God the upper management there does balance it somewhat with...
Well, listen, thank you for the call.
No problem. Bye-bye.
I'm going to worry about management. Because the last thing in the world I want to do is talk about management. It just so happens this management, thank God, is different than most. Most mismanage. Wait till my book comes out. You'll find out. Oh, boy, the exposé's there. Glenn, you're on WABC. Hello.
Hello, Bob.
Yes.
Bob, I just first want to preface my comments by saying it's truly an honor to speak to you. I listen to you every day. I haven't had the opportunity to call before, but today I felt compelled. What I wanted to speak about was what I went through when I went to the polls today. There were a couple of people formerly from the country of Jamaica who were standing in front of me prior to voting. And each one of them, when they got into the voting booth, became somewhat confused as to how to vote. And I felt compelled to ask one of them. I said, haven't you voted before? And they said no. And I said, well, how long have you been in this country? And they stated about 11, 12, 13 years. And I said, well, I hope you're making an educated choice. And they said, yes, we're voting for the Clinton-Gore ticket. And I said, well, why? And they said, well, we have some friends of ours who were Haitian, and Bush did not do right by the Haitian people by not letting them into this country when they were in such a... when Haiti was involved in such a problem. I forget if it was earlier this year or late last year. And I just was so stunned by that comment that we should be the caretakers of the rest of the world and let in all the third world. I mean, imagine if South America was 90 miles away from our border, like Cuba is, or if Africa was, would we be responsible for all the other people of the world? I mean, to me, it just sounds so ludicrous that this is what some people are basing.
Yeah, it is ludicrous. It's stupid and idiotic, but I've got news for you, pal. You're wasting your time getting involved in political discussions at polling places.
I only did just because I was
that's number one. Number two, they were just... you got to realize that people are set to vote a certain way, and they will give any excuse. Now, there's some ignorant woman that leaned over from her table over at the Rio Diner the other day, and I was proudly wearing my big Bush badge, and she said, you really are for George Bush? I said, absolutely. I said, what do you think? I talk one way on the radio and then vote another way? I said, come on. And she said she was voting for Clinton. I said, well, why, Alice? And she said, well, you know, my husband and I have the office down the street, and people from India and other Asian countries keep coming in. I said, what in the world does that have to do with George Bush? I said, that's as a result of the Immigration Act of 1965, which was introduced in the United States Senate by Robert Kennedy and signed into law by Lyndon Baines Johnson. I said, how in the world can you blame the president for something that was passed by the Democrats, signed by the Democrats? Well, I could tell by the look on her face that made no dent. She was determined to vote for Clinton, and it didn't make any difference. See, this is what annoys me. When a person, well, I would rather they just say, hey, you know what? Emotionally, I just feel I have to vote for this guy, and I'm going to vote for him. And I don't want to have to give you any reason. And they don't have to give a reason. The Constitution doesn't say you have to have a reason why you vote for Mr. A or Mr. B. So please, don't get involved where they give you phony reasons. Okay?
Incredible. One other thing, Bob?
Sure.
I just wanted to mention I work for a small company. I've been with them for about 6-7 years now. And frankly, I'm quite worried about what Clinton-Gore administration will do to small businesses. And there's been some layoffs within my company, and I fear that there will certainly be more once the Clinton-Gore economic stranglehold begins to take place January 21st, if Clinton gets elected.
Thank you very much, Glenn. That's Glenn of Rockland County. And why is it when people call from Rockland County, they don't tell the towns? Ask them the towns. I don't want just the county. I want the towns. You understand, Mr. Mamone? All right. On WABC, I'm not going to give the time. I'm not here to give the time. It's just a stupid habit. I'm saying hello to Ross checking in right now on WABC from New York City. Hello, Ross.
This is Ross Perot. Now, I got my phone book in front of me, see? I'm calling each and every household. I came across this number. Now, I only got a couple hours here. I made about 50 million calls already. Now, I'd like to tell my policies, so don't answer call waiting. See? Who am I talking to?
Whom did you wish?
Well, I just got my phone book in front of me. I got no names, just numbers.
I see. You just called at random? Is that what you're saying?
That's right. I'm calling everyone. Yeah. Everyone in this country, tell them to vote for me.
I see. Well, this is Bob Grant.
How you doing, Bob Grant?
I was doing fine until you called.
Now, let me just tell you something. I got only about 2 hours, see, and I got to tell you my policies in about a minute, see?
I understand that you're not alone, though. There are two guys with white coats standing right next to you.
Now, how'd you know that, Miss Bob Grant?
Well, I just figured that it was high time they caught up with you.
You know what, Bob? You're the greatest. And let me tell you something else. For all those gabones out there that are voting for Slick Willy. All right, Bob, keep up the good work, babe.
Now, wait a minute. Who is this?
This is a Jay Diamond wannabe, I think.
You want to do an imitation of Jay?
No. I can only do I can do you and Rush. You see, Rush Limbaugh is no, but I'm not going to do it.
All right, imitate me. Go ahead, imitate me.
Well, you know what, Bob? You're a jerk. No, I love you, Bob. I love you, Bob. You're great.
You're not bad, really. That's not bad. You're not bad.
I'm working on it.
Well, you know, Jay will be on at 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Well, I really love your show, and I like Jay, too. And the thing is, it's just so great when Jay comes in and just does you. I want him to do you for 4 hours when he's got the 3 to 7 slot.
All right, listen. What would you say right now? Here, I'm going to try a Jay Diamond imitation myself. Listen to this. Listen to this. Ready?
Hey, look, pal. I don't like a guy who calls up the show. Hey, look, now, wait a minute. I got to laugh at a guy like this. He calls up the show. He purports to want to talk politics. Then all of a sudden he changes his mind. Hey, look. You know what? I tell the screeners not to screen the show close to... What is that guy laughing at?
That's amazing.
Oh, yeah? It's amazing, huh? Hey, look, pal. The next time you call up with subterfuge, try another show, will you? And now you know what I'm going to say to you? Get out, I'm kidding.
Hey, Ross, that's Jay imitating me.
I knew.
That's right.
You know, I tell you...
He knows, Bob, that I'm a fake, phony, fraud, liar, cheat, prevaricator, deceiver, dissimulator.
But he's very good. Ross, let me tell you, he's very good. Jay's very good for my morale because he will call me sometimes imitating me, and he cracks me up. You know, I pick up the phone. It goes something like this. I say, hello?
Hey, do me a favor, will you please? I wish I could get a job in another town so I could feel like I know what I'm doing. I get depressed when I turn the radio on and it's Bob Grant, because he's too good.
Hey, Jay, I'm glad you called. I'm going to need you, pal, because I'm a very emotional guy, and I don't like this election one single bit.
Oh, hold on. I had a house guest here when Bob Busey called me. Can you come over here? Mario, come here. Bob, are you ready for this?
What? Don't tell me he'll...
No, he's here. He happened to come by.
Don't tell me the spot sheet is
there. Is Ross still there? Wait.
Yeah, I'm here.
Bob, I happened to stop by to see Jay. The reason was I was on my way downtown to Chinatown. Can I say that? Chinatown. I don't say that to be demeaning to people of the Oriental extraction, but it's a colloquialism. I went down to Chinatown because I used Mayor Dinkins Taylor, and I was having some judicial vestments cut.
Oh.
Because if things play out tonight the way I know they will, because of the wisdom of the people of New York and of the country, I will be, sooner or later, be fit for judicial vestments. I'll be on the Supreme Court.
And that's what you want. Hey, Spachim, that's what you want, huh?
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
Azende me.
Mario himself is going to...
I know the regime.
Wait, can Jay give us, my Ross Perot isn't even half as good. Can Jay give us a real Ross?
Well, Jay doesn't have to do it because it just so happens that Ross is over there.
That's right. I'm not auditioning for anything, Ross. I'm not auditioning. I don't know what you think this is, but I didn't know I was talking to Major Bose. You gotta laugh at a guy like this. The guy wants a free show. He's in on a free, but the guy gets in on a pass, and then he wants another thing.
No, I'll drop the bomb, guys, and I'll tell you that I am a professional comedian on TV regularly, but I do listen to you guys occasionally when I'm in New York. I also live in L.A., and I just tune in, and I'm freaked out by the immense talent that you both have.
Nah, it's mostly Bob.
No, it's all Jay.
Hey, look, I'm getting a little sick of this mutual admiration society.
Just one more, just one Perot. Give us...
What do you want?
Because we had my horrible Perot, which is just a rip-off of you. So just give it the real. I do other impressions. You just give us the
real. There's 3 things you've got to understand about Ross Perot. A, he talks when he wants to talk. B, he doesn't take any guff from anybody. C, he's got an agenda and he's not afraid to pursue it. Now, if you could master A, B, and C, you'd be where I am today.
That's very good. That's perfect.
It's scary.
Ross, what imitations do you do?
Just name them. I do.
All right. Who should he do, Jay?
Jackie Mason.
To tell you the truth, it's such an important voice to the tone of the float. I just wanted to mister you listening to me.
Yeah, Jackie, how'd you get away with that fake, phony TV show with Raoul Felder? I like Raoul, but why do you have to have him on? Is that the way you pay your legal bills?
Listen, Bob, I know you're such an important person. But to tell you the truth, I got the show. You didn't. You're still on radio.
Let's see him do Lynn Samuels.
Lynn, I don't do. I don't do Lynn Samuels.
He only does famous people.
Right. Lynn, I'd be doing Lynn Samuels at a club, and people would just be looking at me saying, "What the hell are you doing?" So,
Well, all right. Listen, Ross, thank you for calling.
Thank you, guys. Keep up the good work. What, by the way, what is Jay doing there now?
Jay is not here. Jay called in. He got nervous.
Yeah.
When he heard you, he got very insecure. He said, there's a guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He knows that the WABC people are talking to me, and he's getting worried.
Hey, they move him in and out of here like mothballs.
Don't worry about it. You guys are the best.
Oh, by the way, Bob.
Yes.
What happened to Kentucky? I think the polls closed there, didn't they?
Yeah, but we don't have any...
You don't have it yet?
No, we don't have... I tell you, all we do have... Clinton 44%, Bush 41%, Perot 14%. That's on very limited returns just in.
Okay.
Okay?
Good.
All right, Jay, hurry on. Come on down here, Jay, will you?
I voted the straight Republican ticket today.
Good for you.
Right the way down. But I omitted the judges because the judges are all the same on every line.
That's right.
There's more democracy in Moscow than in New York City.
You're right, Jay.
All right, I'll see you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the call.
And Ross, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Pete, you're on WABC. Hello.
Yeah, hi, Bob. I just want to bestow some compliments on you. I've been listening to you for many years now, and some friends of mine also that I work with, they all listen to you. We all love you, and you got our honest support out in West Babylon.
Well, I appreciate that. Did you say West Babylon?
Yeah, that's correct.
I remember going out to West Babylon many, many years ago.
Uh-huh.
And some people think this is shtick, but they did proclaim it. They had some carnival out there. I went out with... I can't recall this gentleman's name. Natrella. Vinny Natrella. I went out there with Vinny Natrella. He was then doing some public relations work. And they did proclaim it. Wall-to-Wall Bob Grant Country was on July 9th, 1975.
Right.
Pete, I thank you very much. That slams the lid on things for today. Until tomorrow, this is Bob Grant reminding you, your influence counts. Use it. And let's pray for President Bush.
WABC, New York.
7 o'clock.
From ABC News, I'm Doug Limerick. A lot of polls have just closed on an election day that has seen some of the heaviest voter turnouts in memory. The latest in the election from ABC's Vic Ratner, election headquarters.
The polls have closed in 6 more states at this hour, and ABC News projects New Hampshire will go for Bill Clinton, the first time that traditionally Republican state has gone Democratic since 1964. ABC News also projects Georgia will go for Clinton, the first break in what used to be the Republican lock on the solid South, and that Vermont will go for Clinton. In Senate races, ABC News projects Florida Senator Bob Graham, the incumbent, the victor, and in Vermont, Democratic Senator Patrick Leahy, the victor over James Douglas. ABC News projects in the Vermont gubernatorial race, incumbent Howard Dean, the winner. I'm Vic Ratner at the ABC News election headquarters.
Right now, Governor Clinton's in Little Rock, President Bush in Houston, Ross Perot in Dallas, eagerly awaiting the election results. One thing's for sure, the lines have been extremely long at the polls today. Gary Langer of ABC's polling unit tells us what voters have been saying as they leave the voting booths.
Preliminary exit poll results show that voters far and away are naming the economy as the main issue in this election, and they're not happy about it. Only 1/4 of voters say they're better off now than they were 4 years ago. 8 in 10 say the overall economy is in bad shape, and half the voters believe the country is not in a normal economic downturn, but a serious long-term decline.
In addition to the presidential, Senate, and House candidates and the races for governor, there are also some interesting propositions. Voters in 14 states deciding whether there ought to be term limits on elected officials. More news.